American Handgunner Insider.
Hey folks, Tom McHale here with American Handgunner for another episode of Insider. Today we're going to talk about something that plagues all of us, if we're honest. Why we miss easy shots. Yes, be honest. It happens to me. It happens to you. It especially happens to newer shooters a lot. And I think we can boil this down and take care of the problem pretty easily because it really, in almost all cases, boils down to two things: physics and freaking out. Okay, so that sounds a little bit extreme. So just stay with me for a minute and we'll explain. But first, let's talk about the physics part. I've got a example case here, a Smith & Wesson 642 Performance Center classic snubby revolver, very empty as you can see. And this little gun weighs an ounce or two over 1 pound, fully loaded with 38 special ammunition. I know this because I just weighed it on my wife's kitchen scale, a digital model that's really accurate and precise. Do not tell her. Anyway, so it weighs just over a pound, fully loaded. However, and here's the physics part, operating the trigger on this guy takes many times that weight in force. So thinking back to high school physics class, what wants to happen? This is a 1 pound gun. I'm applying 8 or 9 pounds of force to this gun. It's going to want to move when I pull the trigger. Simple concept, right? All right, now here's the freaking out part. So, okay, it's not really freaking out. We're going to call it something more sane, like timing the shot. And again, this is a natural tendency for us because we all want to be perfectionists. So here's what happens. Unless you're made of concrete and rebarred into the ground, when you're aiming at your target, your body and your arms and your hands and your head, everything is moving around just a little bit, and those sights are wobbling on the target itself, right? So natural human tendency is what? We're going to look at that and we're going to go, right now, right? The very instant those sights are precisely on the pinhead-sized target that you want to hit, you're going to reach for that trigger, you're going to yank it, and guess what happens? 8 or 9 pounds of force, 1 pound object, it's going to move. Ipso facto, e pluribus unum, we miss, even close and easy shots. So it's just that simple. Now let's talk about the physics part a little more, because I found a neat little gadget that I'm having quite a bit of fun with, and I'm very impressed so far. So I happen to know, and we're going to find out and prove this in just a minute, how much force it takes to operate the trigger on this gun. And another example case we're going to look at today is Staccato 2011 C2 model pistol. So got a confession to make first. I tinker around with this stuff for a living, and I've been using a trigger weight measuring tool like this, spring operated tool, for way too many years. I really should have upgraded a long time ago, but I did. And now I've gone digital. Lyman has a nifty electronic digital trigger gauge, which has lots of upgrades over the spring model. One, it's way more accurate. Two, it handles a higher range of weights, because when you get into those spring things, you run into compression issues, and the higher the pull weight, the less accurate it's going to be, and that kind of stuff. This guy is digital operated. It's got a little roller on the end, so you get a consistent placement of where on the trigger face as to where you're pulling on that to measure its weight. It also, again, being digital, lets you do cool stuff like take a bunch of measurements and then it'll spit out an average for you, clear it if you want to change and do another gun and that kind of thing. So let's check this out. All I have to do is put the roller on the trigger face itself, keep the device parallel with the bore of the revolver, give it a nice smooth pull back, and voila, I get a measurement, 9 pounds, about 3 ounces on this particular revolver. Okay, so let's look at another example. Here's that Staccato pistol. I'll verify the clear status on that. And I'm going to go ahead and check the trigger pull weight on this guy using the same method. Okay, the last one was 3 pounds, 7 ounces. So in this case, we have got a gun that I weighed again with the kitchen scale. that weighs, with 17 rounds of 9mm ammunition, it weighs 2 pounds, 5 ounces. And I've just figured out it takes over 3 pounds of trigger pull weight to move it. So what do we do about that? Back to the why we miss question. So it seems kind of obvious now that the key to not missing is figuring out how to move that heavier trigger on a lighter gun without moving your sights off target. So I would suggest that we reverse the priority of these things. Rather than trying to pull the trigger at the instant that the sights are directly on target, forget about that. Get the sights on target, then forget about them while you focus on executing a proper and smooth trigger press without moving the gun. That applies on a gun with a light trigger like the staccato, and it also applies on a gun with a heavy trigger like a snub-nosed revolver. And here's what you're going to find. The amount of wobble for most of us on the target, where previously we were trying to time that shot and get it just at the right instance, is very small, usually much smaller than paper plate size at a reasonable distance. So if we kind of forget about trying to hit the quarter size target and focus on the trigger, I think you're going to be surprised at the results. Now, one thing that you'll find as you shoot more and more is that wobble zone on the target is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So focus on your trigger press. Your groups will shrink as you learn how to hold that gun steady throughout its wobble zone and go from there. So happy shooting, folks. Enjoy it. If you like what you see here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll be back again soon with the next episode of American Handgunner Insider.